Hi, I'm Claire, and this is Read for Initiative, the Dungeons & Dragons inspired game that I use to pick what I'm going to read every month. If you missed January's video in which I explained everything, the basic idea is that I roll a bunch of dice to decide what I'm going to read every month, and then at the end of the month we score it up. There's experience points, there's character classes, there's debuffs, there's leveling up, all that good D&D style stuff. So let's get started and I will explain as I go. I am playing as a halfling rogue, and by the end of January I'd gotten myself 2,137 XP, which got me to level 3. Now for February, the dice decided that I should read 4 books, which is very, very doable, and try and fulfill a whopping 11 reading prompts, which was a lot less doable. Honestly, I kind of struggled with this. I did pretty well overall for the month because I managed to read 7 books. They were Upright Women Wanted, which I read because it was a 2020 release and because it was an arc from NetGalley. I also read The Black Tides of Heaven. This one was to read a book published before 2019. I read The True Queen to fulfill the prompt to read a sequel, and The Future of Another Timeline for reading a book with pink on the cover. For reading a most anticipated release and a book with black on the cover, I read The Raven Tower, and I also read The Hidden Witch for read a graphic novel, and The Midwinter Witch for a wildcard pick from my TBR shelf. But I ran out of time and I didn't manage to fulfill the prompt to read an urban fantasy or the prompt to read a book picked by my Patreon supporters, which was Gods of Jade and Shadow. Now, if you've been watching my channel recently, you'll know that Gods of Jade and Shadow is a BookTube SF Forward finalist and I'm a judge. So aside from it being picked by my patrons, I also really need to read it this month for the awards. So that one is one that is straight up coming back on the TBR, and I'm going to try and read it first in March. So I hope I can fit it in somewhere in this TBR, otherwise it'll just have to be straight up an edition. Overall, I'm pretty happy with how February went, even though I didn't fulfill all of the reading prompts. For March, I am looking forward to giving myself a slightly less ambitious TBR because it was a little stressful and I need to leave a little bit more space for mood reading. Now, since the point of this game for me is to read all of the books, the main way that I score XP is by reading books. For every page that I read, I will get 1 point of experience, and for every 1,000 points of experience, I will get a new level. Now, I got some questions last time about how the leveling system works and whether I'm leveling up maybe too often, because I got to level 3 already in the first video where I was doing scoring, and what happens when I'm leveling up so fast, how does it affect the game? And the thing is, it doesn't really, because I didn't actually work out a way for the leveling up to influence the game mechanically speaking. It's just because I like to say that I leveled up, and it's nice to feel like, you know, this game that I invented is kind of working and I'm like progressing in it. I did say last month that I was going to figure out a series of like little rewards to give myself when I level up, and I still haven't done that. So basically it doesn't have any gameplay effect at all. It is just fun to say that I leveled up. For my reading in February, those 7 books came up to a total of 1,978 pages, which is a little bit more than January, which is quite good. That's obviously an extra 1,978 experience points, which makes my total 4,115 XP, and that is 2 level ups up to level 5. Got all my points calculated already on my phone, which is obviously what I'm looking at. But I also get bonus points if I read the number of books picked for me by the dice, and even more bonuses if I go above that. I could also win points if I fulfilled all of my planned reading prompts, but I didn't do that this month. I had 11 reading prompts planned and I only did 9. So technically, according to the rules of the game that I set up in December, that is 50 points off of my total. I am now wondering if I should kind of tweak that so that you don't get like just a flat minus 50 if you fulfilled 9 out of 11 of reading prompts. It feels a little bit harsh. I don't know that I want to go as granular as like a little bit of a bonus for each fulfilled prompt, because that seems just to be making things a lot more complex. But at the same time, I am wondering if the way that I have it going on right now is a little bit too strict. I don't know. This is a kind of thing that it's important to playtest any kind of a game like that for, I guess. Let me know how you feel about that one in the comments below, because ultimately I would love to be able to release all of the rules for Read for Initiative to like everybody else so that people can do the game for themselves, or maybe do like a readathon so that everybody else on BookTube can like try and do it for maybe a month or something like that. I would like to try and take it and do something with it that can be like opened up to everybody else. So I do need to make sure it's like actually making sense first. Also, because I'm a rogue, I get bonus points for every book that I read under 250 pages. I literally made up this rule because I love reading novellas, and I read 2 more novellas this month, which once again means that the points I just lost because of reading prompts, they are almost back, which is quite nice. Next up, I've got my side quests, which are to vanquish my TBR shelf and to buff my NetGalley ratio. Now, to reduce the number of unread books that I own, I will be getting points every time that I read more books from my unread physical shelf in a month than I get new books on the shelf, if that makes sense. So this month, for instance, I managed to read 6 books that I owned at the beginning of the month that were on the TBR shelf, and I only brought 1 book onto the shelf, so that's a lot of extra bonus points. This is very much an outlier. Usually I will be getting more books than just 1 in a month, and I actually know that I am getting like at least 2 new books probably tomorrow or the day after, but that's in March, so it doesn't count. And finally, because I want to improve my NetGalley ratio, I am going to be getting points if I review more books on NetGalley than I add onto my reviewing queue. And this month, I failed at this. I requested 2 new books from NetGalley and I only reviewed 1. So that's some points off of my total. And that is scoring done for February. I am starting March on just over 4,300 points on level 5. I hope this all made sense. Folks were saying in the comments last time that the specific point system isn't obvious, but like the way I'm explaining it kind of makes sense. So please do let me know. I am looking to tweak this, like I was saying, both the system itself and the way that I'm presenting it to you so that it's like the best possible experience. So do let me know. But now let's get to rolling some dice, and we are starting with a constitution roll with these d12, which I'm going to do to see how many books I feel up to reading this month. This is on a base of 5 books a month, so if I roll a really low number, I'm not feeling up to much, I won't read as many, and then if I'm rolling a really high number, I'm feeling amazing, and I'm gonna try and read way more books than that. I have to say before we start that I am playing as a halfling, and the modifier for halfling is that you get to re-roll 1 die a month, and I completely forgot about this last month. I could have re-rolled this amazingly high roll that gave me 11 prompts, and I completely forgot about it. So this month I'm going to keep it in mind because I'm trying to be kind to myself. So let's see how many books I need to be reading this month. And that is a 7, which in my table means no change. So that's 5 books in the month. I think I'm going to keep this roll because 5 books a month is the baseline that I'm trying to hit. It's not that many, given that I'm trying to read just as many shorter things like comics, graphic novels, and novellas as I do longer things, novel length works. And also I have quite a few things to get to reading for the BookTube SFF Awards, so I think 5 is good, 5 books is good. I'm going to keep that. Next up, I'm going to roll for initiative with this D20 to figure out how many reading prompts I will attempt to fulfill this month. Now, this roll is also on a baseline of 5, which means that I'm rolling to see if I have to try and do 1, 2, 3, less or more reading prompts based on 5. but it is weighed super heavily in favor of having more reading prompts because that's more interesting. So let's hope I don't once again like roll a natural 20 or something like that. Let's go. And I have rolled a 9, which in my table is +1 prompt, so 6 reading prompts. I'm actually pretty happy about that because, like I was saying, I have quite a few things that I need to try and finish this month. I'm going to try and lift this pile next to me here for you to see. These are the books that I have to read for the BookTube SFF Awards. I do have 2 months, but the one that I want to make sure I definitely read this month is Gods of Jade and Shadow by Silvia Moreno Garcia, because this was the Patreon pick last month and I didn't get to it, so I am going to be prioritizing that one. That's definitely number 1 on my list. It's already there, so if some of the reading prompts work for including it, great. If not, it's already on the list. And then I've got 7 books total to read for the BookTube SFF Awards, including The Priory of the Orange Tree, which is super long. So I'm going to try and include Priory in this month's TBR just so that it's done and, you know, not out of the way as in like it's a chore to do it, but as in I won't be stressing out about having an 800 plus pages books to read next month. And now to pick the specific books that I am going to be reading, I am going to roll some dice to pick some reading prompts out of some random encounter tables that I filled full of reading prompt goodness. So I'm going to roll this d6. On a 1 or 2, I'm picking from the first table. On a 3 or 4, I'm picking from the second table. And on a 5 or 6, I'm picking from the third table. And then I've got 2 d10s. I know apparently I rolled a d8 that I called a d10 last time. I've made sure to check this time and it's definitely the 2 d10s. I've got one that is going to give me the like first number, the dozens, I guess, the tens. And then I've got one that's going to give me the other half. So let's just get started because we've got 6 reading prompts to pick. So I've got 1, which means that I'm going to the first table of reading prompts, and then I've got a 36. And prompt number 36 in the first table is read a YA SFF book, and I think it might be time. It might be time to read Illuminae by Amy Kaufman and Jay Kristoff. It is YA, it is science fiction, it is about 2 teenagers who are on 2 different spaceships, both trying to survive some spooky things happening. And I've heard some spoilers about what the spooky things are, and I love that trope that the spooky things actually secretly are, so I'm very excited for this one. I filmed like a couple of weeks ago, you won't have seen it yet, but I've recently filmed a 5-star prediction video that this was in. Spoilers. I think I'm going to really like it. I will report back. Very excited for this. It's also written with like some weird formats and stuff like that, like some text messages and things, so I hear it's very quick read, even though it is like 500 plus pages. Alright, for our next roll, we've got 5, which is the third table, and then 12. So prompt number 12 in the third table is Wildcard Audiobook. Yes, thank you. That is very nice. Most of my reading these days is audiobooks. I've mentioned this before, but I really struggle with attention span and focus because there's too many things happening all the time. And audiobooks for me are great because they keep my attention and I can listen to them while doing other things. And I just love audiobooks. I have so many that I want to listen to, and actually, I know it's a wild card, which means that I could be picking it whenever in the month, but I already know what I want to listen to because all of my friends have been talking about this book and I haven't been able to pick it up because I didn't have time, but I'm gonna do it. I'm going to listen to The Unspoken Name by, I think, A.K. Larkwood. This one is epic fantasy and the main character is an orc, I think, and the title The Unspoken Name comes from the fact that like there's this god in this world that you don't say the name of, but warriors are expected to like be sacrificed for it, I think. The main character in any case is someone who's always known that she would sacrifice herself for her god, and then she ends up not doing it, and it's clearly a very unusual thing in that society to just skip on the sacrifice. So I don't know, it seems like it's going to be really, really cool. All of my friends are reading it right now and really enjoying it. I love myself a little bit of epic fantasy, especially on audiobooks, so mwah. For prompt number 3, we've got, in the third table, prompt number 25, and that is read a book with white on the cover. Let's see, what do I have that's got white on the cover? I was racking my brain for a little while, and then I realized that the only BookTube SFF Award finalist that I don't have a copy of right here, right now, that I still need to read is The Test by Sylvain Neuvel, and that has a mostly white cover, so I'm going to go with that for prompt number 3. Next up we have, whoops, that was a 15 in the second table. So 15 in the second table is to read a book outside of the house. So this is going to be a relatively easy one to do. A lot of my audiobooks I listen to when I go on walks and stuff like that, so that's like a very nice way of achieving that prompt. So let's roll again for prompt number 5, and that is in the second table again, number 81. So I-81 is read a classic. Read a classic. This face that I did just now, that's because I don't read a lot of classics, and mostly I don't enjoy them. Alright, so I've made a decision, and my decision is that for this prompt, I'm going to chicken out and re-roll one of the dice. And that is because I'm really tired right now. I really need a little bit of a break and to read something like fun and easy, like stuff that I am reading that's not for the BookTube SFF Awards needs to be something fun that I really, really want to be reading, and not something that I'm dragging my feet. And all of my classics that I have that I want to read are like SFF classics like Joanna Russ or Ursula Le Guin, and they feel like they'd be kind of like, you know, brainy, like take a bunch of brain to read, and I'm not sure that I have so much of that available at the minute. So I'm gonna re-roll this dice here. That was the 10s. I think that's what is giving me the like highest chance of having a different prompt. Of course, if it actually falls on 80 again, I do have to read a classic. So let's see what we get. 90! It's not the same! Whew! Okay, 91 in the second table is read a book that is longer than your last read. My last read was a novella, so this is actually quite easy to do, because my last read, I believe, was 230 pages, something like that. However, the next roll is the last one. And, you know, in the spirit of, like, trying to chicken out a little bit of reading a classic, but not too much, and not giving myself something super easy to do, I do think I'm going to put Priory of the Orange Tree on the TBR for this month, just because it's so big. It's definitely bigger than 236 pages, because it's like 800 pages. So yeah, I'm just going to give this one a go, and if I don't manage to finish it all in 1 month, then I have the next month to read it in. But hopefully you'll find that my chickening out of reading a classic is warranted, given that I've like made myself read this giant chunker. Okay, we've got one prompt left to go. We've got 3 books from the BookTube SFF Award reading that I need to do already on the list, so I am doing well so far for picking things that absolutely need to be read this month. And here we go. That went way wide, but it is a 20, so that is 23 in the third table, which is to read a book under 200 pages. Very, very nice. So we've already got the test in that category, I believe, because it's a novella, so it ought to be either just over 200 pages or just under. I just went and checked, and Goodreads tells me that the test is indeed under 200 pages. It is 108 pages, so I am definitely going to be reading that, which will check this prompt off. But honestly, I also have like at least 5 or 10 novellas that I can see right now on my TBR shelf that I could read if I wanted to. Plus, I do actually have quite a few arcs on NetGalley that are for novellas, so that is a prompt that I'm really not worried about fulfilling. So that's it. This was Read for Initiative. The dice decided that I should read 5 books in March and try to fulfill the following 6 reading prompts: to read out of the house, easy peasy, read a book with white on the cover, read a book under 200 pages, read a book longer than my previous read a YA SFF book. I've also got a wildcard audiobook to pick from. So as things stand, my TBR for March has 3 books for the BookTube SFF Awards: Gods of Jade and Shadow by Sylvia Moreno Garcia, The Priory of the Orange Tree by Samantha Shannon, I can also use it for weightlifting, and The Test by Sylvain Novelle. I'm also going to be reading Illuminae by Amy Kaufman and Jay Kristoff, as well as an audiobook of my choice, which I think is probably going to be The Unspoken Name by AJ Larkwood, or maybe Storm Song by C.L. Polk, which is a sequel to a book I loved a couple years ago, Witchmark. So either of those two, maybe both if I end up having loads of time, but maybe let's not start adding too much on the TBR right now. I am very, very tired. I am going to go and have some food and maybe an early night. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and I will see you very, very soon. If you'd like to see more from me, you can check out a previous video on screen right now. And if you haven't yet, please hit the subscribe button that's on my face for a new video from me every week. I've been Claire, thanks so much for watching, and see you soon.